Welcome back to another one of our 5-minute messages. We are so grateful that you have joined us on whatever screen you're looking at right now. My name is Brian Steele, and I have the privilege of being the pastor at St. Paul United Methodist Church in Bloomfield Hills and Hazel Park United Methodist Church. As a pastor, I spend a lot of time with the Bible. This is a big book, a complicated book, a beautiful book, a book with a lot of different writers and perspectives and different viewpoints from these writers who have all had experiences with God that have informed that perspective. Because the Bible is so big and has many different genres of writing from these various authors, it has the potential to be terribly misused. And it has been, time and time again throughout history. And when I say misused, what I mean is that it has been taken from its original purpose, the purpose that the author had for sharing their story or this information, that perspective. Now, to explain all of that and go through the ways the Bible's been misused throughout history, that would truthfully, sadly, take years to unpack and have to be in a serious academic class, which you're not looking for as you go through social media. And I don't have time to do all that here. But I do want to spend just a few minutes discussing one of the main ways the Bible is misused, and that's called proof texting. Proof texting in the Bible is essentially when we have this belief that we have been fully convinced of or have been socialized over time to believe. And then we find one or two verses in the Bible to back up that belief. But there are a few problems here. First, the chapters and verse numbers that we see in today's Bible were not part of the original documents. I think it's helpful to have, chapter numbers and verse numbers in today's world, because it does break up what would otherwise be a massive and overwhelming text. But these chapter and verses numbers were placed in there by interpreters later on that were just dividing up the text where they thought it should be, to the best that they could discern what the author's intent would have been. So the problem with taking individual verses to back up our beliefs is that it removes those verses from their full context. Just a quick example of this, especially comes in the Apostle Paul's writings, looking at 1 Corinthians in this case. When Paul was writing a letter to this church, he has this saying toward the end of the letter that all women should be silent in church. And people can take that statement and those few statements that surround it and see them through a cultural lens of today and come to the conclusion that women should not serve as clergy or in teaching positions in active ministry. But if we look at Paul's whole body of work, we can then conclude that if Paul were told that just this small little snippet of his writing was taken and people came to the conclusion that women should not be in ministry, Paul himself would be completely perplexed by this, because he himself commissioned women in ministry and commended them as teachers. Even in another case, there are verses where it says for slaves to obey their masters. Well, think of how problematic that could be when we rebel against horrific instances like slavery. That is the danger of proof texting. You can take those one or two statements and form a whole system of evil around it. But basically, when we proof text, we're taking our own understanding of the text instead of trying to understand that the world that the author is writing in. and what the author is referring to amidst their writing, because they're speaking to real-life examples of what they know the people are experiencing. So what is the author's, as best we can, intention in communicating this? The Bible is beautiful. I am fully convinced. I am convinced of that, even amidst some of the problematic areas of it. And it's one of the greatest tools for our faith. I mean, in learning who Jesus is, this is our tool for that. But we have to use that tool in the way it was intended. If not, we could end up building a house that falls down and hurts those who are trying to live inside of it. And the church has done that throughout our history. A lot. So that's it for today's 5-minute message, friends. Take some time. Read the Bible. But also take time to understand the world that it was written in. Alright, we'll see you back here on Thursday with another 5-minute message. Go in peace, knowing that you are loved.